Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mariah and here on my channel I post lifestyle and university related content. So if you're interested in that, make sure you subscribe and turn the notification bell to all so you never miss a video. Today's video I'm going to give you guys some tips that I use to help me decide which universities were right for me to apply for, or just if you're already past that point, deciding which university is the one you want to make your firm choice or your insurance choice, for example. These tips will help you. So I'm going to jump right into it. I will put timestamps below so you can hop to the section that you feel applies to you the most for those little tips. Okay, so the first main thing I would say is the course structure. I've mentioned this before in previous videos, but the title, don't take the title at face value basically. I'm going to use sports science as an example because that's what my undergrad was in. So there could be so many degrees at different universities saying they do sport and exercise science. But then when you look at the modules, they could be more coach tailored or more teaching tailored. You know, it really depends on what you're trying to look for. So definitely look at the course structure because like I said, you can't take it at face value. And on top of that, it may not be the actual modules that they're teaching. Look at how they test those modules. Are they hands-on? Are they exams? Are they coursework? Do what tailor to your strengths rather than your weaknesses in that sense, and that will show. Trust me, it will show. So I think that's something to look at as well. That's the first main tip. The second tip is obviously tuition fees. That's a big thing. You know, money don't grow on trees. Like, everybody's finances are different. So when you're doing undergrad in the UK at this point of filming, it is 9,250 for an undergrad each year, and student finance will cover that. Obviously, if you're doing like a master's or whatnot, you have to look at tuition because this can really, vary depending on where you're studying. Because I had places that I applied for my master's where one tuition was, I think, 9,250 for 1 year. And then another place, it was like, it started with 9,250, but then second year, it went up to like 12,000. And then another place, it's like 9,500 per year. So it really differs, and you need to figure that out before you make that commitment to choose to apply to their place, because ultimately you don't want to go there and be poor. So, stay within your realms in that sense, unless you can get like some outside funding. So yeah, that's one thing to bear in mind there. Another thing is accommodation. What's the accommodation like around there? Because no one wants to live in a crappy place. You know what I mean? Like, when I talk about accommodation, I don't just mean what do they have on offer for campus, because ultimately you're not going to be living on campus the whole time with it. I mean, if you're international, maybe, I don't know, but that's also something you have to think about. Like, what does the campus accommodation look like? Because if you're first year, typically stay on campus, but also what's the surrounding area like? But that's another point. But for accommodation, is rent pricey around there? Because in second and third year, you tend to rent with friends. So you have to figure out, is that something pricey? Will I even be able to afford something like that further down the line? That's something you need to consider when choosing to apply to a certain university. Another thing is travel. Okay, so when you go to open days, you get to cover this one anyway. But if you're unable to go to an open day, whether you're international or there's just you don't have the funds to get to this place, what I would say is obviously go on like Google Maps and then search up like the distance from whatever trains they say, for like King's Cross, for example, to Edinburgh. Let's say that is a bit drastic, but you know what I mean. Like, consider how much is that going to cost. Will you be able to fund those train tickets or plane? I personally would fly, but what's it called? Plane tickets, train tickets, or coach or whatnot. You have to figure that out. Or will you get a rail card? Those kind of things. You need to bear that in mind. I know it sounds like a lot to think about up front, but I feel like it will catch up with you if you're not wary of these things. Because if you're a person who you feel like you're going to be going home every other weekend, you need to bear that in mind. And that brings you on to the next point, which is location. Obviously, location is very important. The course is important. Obviously, the course is ultimately the reason why you're going to the university. But if the location isn't it, you may not, you're not going to vibe. And like, that's how I felt when I went to like my first uni, is that the location just wasn't it for me. And not just because like I wasn't vibing there, but for some people, location is everything. Because if you're unable to go home, for example, that is your home for how many years while you're studying. So you need to be able to like what you're, around your surroundings are. You need to have like good shops that you're used to, decent supermarkets, stuff like that you're entertained the whole time. You're not just, isolated basically, unless you like that. If you like that, then fair play. But that's something to bear in mind. Like I say, travel, bear that in mind. Will you need a car? That's something you need to ask. Because like me personally, when I was applying for my master's, I had to ask questions like, do people drive? Or do you think I need a car? Because like go on placements and stuff, do you think is where, so you can bear that all in mind. End of the day, I may not even end up getting a car, but it's just something to, you know, bear in mind and just have that there, you know. Another thing that I know loads of people also look at is rankings. So I like to use the University Complete Guide, I believe it is. Guardian sometimes. But you know, those ones, I like to use those. But I don't take them as gospel, basically. Because I know, like, it's the students saying it, but at the same time, it could differ depending on the course. And even when you do specify by course, sometimes I'm like, you know, it could be one person's perception and all that. I know that, you know, some will be like, oh, but they weigh it up. I get that, but you know what I mean. There could be a place that you may not like, that someone else may not like, but you may like. For example, when I transferred from like Kent to Hertfordshire, people, if you looked at it on face value, some people were like, why would you transfer from Kent to Hertfordshire? And for me, the ranking wasn't the reason why. Like, I wasn't like, oh yeah, even though I know I did drop in ranking at the time, I'm not sure what the rankings are currently. But like, you know, it really differs. The experience you have really differs per person. So I don't take that at face value, but it is always nice to know what people think of it, especially like the graduate prospects. What do you think of that? Because at the end of the day, you're going to become a graduate there, and you need to know that you're going to be able to work, you know, and the university had the facilities to help you out. And that's another thing. Student support. You need to look at that. Like, what do people say about the student support? What do people, you know, feel needs to be improved? And even if you search on their site, you can kind of get a vibe of like what they have on offer for the students to help them succeed. And if you think it's something that'll benefit you, it'll benefit you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, use it. Because I know at my university, they had those things where you can go into the library and let them read your assignments and those kind of things. And there's extra stuff that will help you out. And alongside that, you can look at the extra curricular activities. So whether that be societies, sports clubs, etc. Look at those. If you're someone who's into those kind of things, I mean, you can always go to most universities and start your own club. But if you don't want to do all of that, you know, see if they have that, because I did that. That was one thing that was big for me. Like, I looked at societies. Will I be able to meet new people through these means? Is it just a uni where everyone kind of like keeps themselves to themselves? Is it kind of like a community? Those are something that you have to like bear in mind. Another thing now that you have to bear in mind, like I've already covered like cost of living and those kind of stuff, but you have to think about the uni life versus like the student, like actual student studying life. Like, what's the balance like in that place? Because I know some places, like some universities, will get dubbed as like a party uni, but that doesn't always necessarily mean that their students aren't getting good grades. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't want to be in a place where everybody's like, you know, clubbing on a Friday or Wednesday and whatever, you think about that, bear that in mind in your decision, because you know you want to feel comfortable where you're going. And like, that's just kind of my quick tips I'd say to make sure you're doing when you're trying to apply to a university or deciding which university to make your firm or your insurance choice. It really sometimes just comes down to those last minute pros and cons. There you go. Pros and cons. And when it comes to deciding which one is better for you, because for me, sometimes it comes down to the nail biting thing. So I think definitely bear that in mind. But those are some of my quick tips on how to decide which university to apply to or make your firm or your insurance choice. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and leave a comment down below if you think this helped you or you think I forgot anything. It'd be nice, you know, give other people some tips or anything that you feel like I forgot. But I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you. Bye.